everyone, that's fine. The company you are familiar with, or international company, you know some industry and a product, then you can work with it. So by the whole idea of balanced scorecard, uh, numbers. I mean, we from financial statement analysis, we know how they manipulate the numbers. Their cases, other cases, all these cases, they are manipulating numbers to get bonus, to get fresh loan. So what else is available to really find out their true performance? How we measure their a true performance, except for the numbers. This will give you good ideas. Last cohort, one student really among everything, really liked this balanced scorecard approach, and she designed a for accounting firm. She was a CPA, working for a local CPA firm. She designed balanced scorecard for her company and gave it to the managing partner, and they modify it and they are using it for their performance evaluation. Um, I think it is way too much. Your local firm is too much the cut point, and she simplified a little bit, and they adopt modified version of her paper to use for performance evaluation. That will be good exercise to uh, find out instead of numbers, what else is available to find out what's going on with the company. That would be good exercise. Now you have to here briefly. You have to show here our company is this, our a know motivation guideline is this, forward-looking item is this end result will be this, and I post I think I already post sample balance scorecard here. So archive, so plenty of information will be available for this. Uh, yeah, I'm missing this one. Sustainability. As I mentioned, in addition to International Accounting Standard Board, Financial Accounting Standard Board, Government Accounting Standard Board, Cost Accounting Standard Board, now they just introduced a couple, less than a couple years ago, Sustainability Accounting Standard Board. Every day they come up with this new standard. I'll tell you, this will be major portion of your work years down the road. So we have to find out sustainability accounting. What items we need to know when we evaluate a sustainability, what is the sustainability? Corporate social responsibility. Are they really spending this much of money to improve the image of the company, to improve the quality of life in the community? Or they invest that kind of money to just improve the image of CEO so that he can get better job next time around? We have to find out. There are tons of research available, and I will introduce some research and some of the sustainability accounting principles. And now, really a popular job on a corporate in the United States is a Chief Sustainability Officer, CSO. They they do a job of CMO, a Chief Marketing Officer job as well. So this job of probably you might introduce as an accountant. This is probably in addition to CFO or the controller, CSO job. I think is for accountants because they know exactly impact on any financial reporting as well, in addition to everything else. So these are the main topics. And sustainability, by going over this topic, I want to do also a tax. This guys, we learn about tax research. We learn sustainability through tax practice. Uh, they do this, invest a lot of money in sustainability, but what they find out is they are a taking really risky position on their tax. In other words, they try to delay as much as they can. They try to avoid their taxes. Their practice is not consistent with the idea of sustainable investment. This is surprising and troubling. So we, using the accounting research, will find out how U.S. corporations use sustainability. Well, some of the companies actually they invest in sustainability, corporate social responsibility. Some of them using it as another tools to have a better image on their brand and their practice. So these are the major topics. Hopefully, any get here, but only get lost. So, why she's coming in? Beverly sent out yesterday about the graduation party, right? Did you get the date? I think it's March 2nd. Cranberry Inn. I don't know where it is. Cranberry Inn. So yeah. We should
I didn't get it. We didn't get an email upon it.
Plainsboro Road, straight, and Main Street on right, and on the left. From here, about 15 minutes.
I didn't get that.
What is it?
Graduation party.
I didn't get an email.
You
neither.
March.
Oh, you didn't get the email? Oh, Beverly will email you. I think.
Does this party include adult beverage?
No, the significant others. Pound for significant others.
No, I know, but does this party include adult beverages, like beverages that can only be consumed by 21 plus?
No, I think there is counted the bar.
Oh, okay.
Well, you're heavy users of.
But
I like juice, but I will not speak. I will not mention names. People like to drink, wine.
Oh, wine is available. We are over 19, so the wine and scotch all these.
Scotch.
That's what I had. That's what I had last time in graduation party. Beverly will send out. I try to make it if I can avoid this international trip.
that's the party.
See, you handle data. You handle data while you were doing a data work for a financial statement analysis. If you put down any set of information in this format, I will use format. For any given data, here is variable. Here is variable. You have sales and all this forensic accounting and any different variables. You can financial reporting item. You have many different data items. Item you want to see is this. For this variable, what you want to know is distribution of data and what's going on In other words, without examining any financial record, if you look at this table, you should be able to tell something is moving in some direction. In other words, here, let's say here, usually we do mean, median, a standard deviation, Q1, Q3, mean, max. If you put down a information for this item this way, there is no way you can miss what's going on with it. The reason why we need what? This is the 50% height. In other words, this is Q2, right? Q2. So mean, arithmetic mean, a median, standard deviation. Variance is a square root of the standard deviation to power 2. That will be a variance. We don't need that information here. Quartile 1, quartile 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you want to have a more detailed description, you can have a quintile decile. Decile, hundreds of thousands of data, then you want to have a 10 segments of data to see, well, D5 will be median, in this case D5 will be median, decile 1 to decile 10, minimum max. And if you see this data for your financial variable, you will see, okay, you are recognizing revenue much faster than cash is coming in. If you have all the variables here, you are not using your employee efficiently compared to industry average because per employee sales is much lower or per employee expense is much higher than industry average. You can tell right away. And this is the idea, application of descriptive statistics. This is descriptive statistics. Hi, Amy.
How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Well, thank you.
Having trouble getting?
Nope, just figuring out which class.
Do you have a USB?
I do.
Okay,
I'll
okay.
just,
Take your
have
time.
to save
Take
it
your
until
time.
it.
To be continued. See, so, Amy, so whenever you're ready, I will give you. So before you invest a lot of time arranging this data into this format will save you hours and hours and tens of thousands of dollars. You don't want to do fancy tests before you have this. And how we produce this data, the data format? Excel, even Excel, if that is not powerful enough, you can have SAS, SPSS, PMDP, depending upon the industry. These are the data, the program language you can handle. If you know any one of these, you can handle this very quickly and find out, and you can give a program language like if variable ABC is greater than 100, then print out. This simple command language will print out any variable greater than 100 in that order, by that is the order. So all you have to do is print out that list and go to that source document and examine only those files instead of going through drawers after drawers of this data. That's the whole idea.
talk more about the paper next week?
Paper?
The
Isn't it
Cox
Cox
paper?
paper?
One, it was doing 2 weeks, so it was 10 pages, so a lot.
10 page, 2 hours.
An individual effort?
Individual effort. So
I
you
thought it was
need more
group.
time for 10 page?
Just wondering if there's a specific topic we need to hit, more second, more.
No, there is a description. I gave you 7 questions. It's in Sakai. Sakai? Or, yeah, Sakai resources. That's one.
Yeah, it says
It's not him. I assigned him. I assigned team project when we had 30 students. 30 students. We don't have 30 more than 30 students. So simple 7 questions, and I gave you instruction, right? How to respond, right? And all the materials are there.
3, 4, 5, 6 actually.
And this will be handed out till next week, a PowerPoint and 1 research paper by happens to be my paper. It's not that important. It's because I'm familiar with the this area of research. So yeah, assignment, colloquium with ethics.
Yeah.
A week long
Yes.
A and B. I'm gonna go copy.
Okay, sure. Yeah, yeah, you already print out and review that SOPs yes, page 1. We change all these dates because of the availability of the expert. So there is a week 1, week 5 with different week names, but then that's the assignment. So you should see, question is very specific, and all the materials are provided here. All the materials available on that and page, the 10 pages due when? 2 weeks, right? Not next week, week after that, right?
When is the assignment, week 1?
That week one,
Yeah, that's
supposed to be week 1, but week
Okay.
3, they shuffle because
That's the
of
one.
the
Okay, I feel better. I didn't know that was happening.
No, I don't have something that you can do, you know. Okay, well, see, we are lucky to have Amy. I kept asking her to come over to my campus because she had to drive 1 hour. So it was very difficult arrangement. But Amy is a speaker at the AICPA. Invited guest her at our PMAC class as well. Magna cum laude from George Washington University. She has her own practice. She's a principal. They don't in the financial group. So without wasting too much time, I will introduce Amy. Please put your hands together.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
It was fine, I thought we were, so, different times, but it all worked out. Kids were covered, that was the important part. There's a carnival at school today, and these are the important things. We got it all figured out. Is this the clicker for it?
Yeah, pretty good.
Perfect. I'll give you a little bit of an overview on me, but I would love an overview of you guys. How many you're all working professionals currently, yes? In the accounting field, in finance? Show of hands for accounting. Everybody's accounting, okay. And traditional public accounting, tax audit?
Mostly private.
You're in a CPA firm, okay. So really, why I originally started speaking in this with this group was to speak about specifically forensic accounting, as I have a background in that. It's not what I do every day. In fact, it's not what I do most days. It's not really what I do most of the time at all. It's in my past. So where I will share with you is some examples of forensic accounting and how you can utilize the skill set that you have in that role. But I also spent last year, we talked a lot about how to use those types of skills in other disciplines in case you want to take a different path with your career. So what we'll talk about today is really the other disciplines that you can utilize your CPA with, and that skill set. We are, truthfully, in my opinion, the highly skilled, most trained industry, and often taken for granted. So I'll share with you different things that you can do and what I do in my practice and how I bring those together. And you could read a little bit of my background, but I started off wanting to be an FBI agent, went to GW, graduated in '99, found out in the fall of '99 that I could not be an FBI agent because I am 4'9". Just some really nice heels today. Now that we cleared the monkey out of the room, again, it's 4'9", we don't have to think about it again, right?
FBI agents have to be a certain height?
In 1999 you did, you had to be 5 feet tall. When I asked the agent why, she shared with me that it had something to do with standard issue bulletproof vests and the backfire of the physics of a gun. I can assure you it was a very good shot, but I couldn't refute the bulletproof vest. I guess it made you more likely to die in the line of duty, which was bad for taxpayers because they needed you to raise money. Story of our government's life, right? So, and her response, I said, that's height discrimination. Her response to me was, well, you could be the woman who fights the federal government. I chose not to be the woman who fought the federal government. Wasn't the way I like to accomplish things at that, stage of my life. I thought I was so much further along in my life than I look back at now. And ended up going into private practice, went directly to Deloitte & Touche out of school, spent a year in A&A, and when I say a year, I'm actually a little bit off. I was there for 1 year and 2 weeks. Did anybody do a busy season in A&A yet, or in the process, or about to start a busy season in audit? Okay. It's okay. Another day, another dollar, you'll get through it. Great experience, or as they say, it's a great learning experience. I didn't enjoy my time. It wasn't what I wanted to do. I didn't want to be an accountant. I wanted to solve crime. And I wanted to be able to put pieces of a financial puzzle together to figure out what went wrong and why and how to prevent it again. I had wanted to go into money laundering and white collar crime. So I made a move to a local firm in Philly called Parente Randolph. Today they are part of Baker Tilly International, a larger firm. You may be familiar with Baker Tilly, it's a more national firm. And I went right into their forensic accounting department. Spent 4 years there, became a client of one of my now colleagues. My husband and I went through and met with them and started to learn about money and finance in a really uncommon way. And when I started to evaluate the way in which money and finance really operates, what I found was that what I had learned about debits and credits and balance sheets and cash flow statements really wasn't true. And when I say true, I'll define that to mean it wasn't evident, there wasn't evidence to support the conclusions that I had drawn as an accountant about how money and finance really operate in the real world and how wealth is really created. And just those few brief conversations, I said, we might want to do something different. And we started to shift the way in which we started to create wealth. And they sat down with me and had a conversation about who else I knew that I loved and cared about, that I wanted to introduce to them, who could experience the type of value that we had created. And I said, like every client does, give me a couple of days, I'll give you a list. The difference was that I actually gave them a list and had a little over 100 people on the list with phone numbers, which is pretty unheard of. And thankfully, my advisor has a tremendous amount of integrity and turned to me and said, the way I can create value for you is to ask you to join us, because that's a lifetime's worth of business you just gave me, and I'm not greedy. You care that much about these people, and you care that much about what we're sharing, you should go out and share this with others. I went, thanks, you call. I'm good. I was in the middle of a fraud investigation. It was the first job I had sold myself as the expert. I was happy. I wasn't going anywhere. 6 months went by of their recruiter constantly calling me. They finally said, fine, I'll have dinner with the guy. I'll let him down easy. Those of you who have ever had to let anyone down easy, it's not as easy as we think it is. I went out to dinner with him, had a discussion about the career in the industry, and was pretty much blown away. Came home and my husband basically pushed me on public accounting. He said, go do this. The interesting thing was that when I started, I thought I would meet a client and I would go work for the client. I never thought that I would end up being a business owner, having 5 associates working for me, a staff of people, and having unbelievably powerful and interesting clients to help and advise every single day of my life. That's not where I thought the career would be. I thought that I would be pulling out the gun saying, "Free FBI." And because I've learned that social proof is something that everybody needs, I was just awarded the Standing Ovation Award just about last week from the AICPA in Personal Financial Services, and I was one of 22 national recipients to be recognized as a thought leader and an up-and-coming rising star, being that I'm under 40. I gotta win again next year so that I can keep it there, because I'm nearing that number. But recognized for being a thought leader in our industry. Please understand that, one, I'm not good at keeping track of time. That's not a unique ability of mine, and I don't want to take up too much of your time, so signal me, give me notification. And I didn't come all the way up here to talk at you guys. Let's make this interactive. No one heard me last year, right? No. Okay. Good. So let's make this interactive. Interrupt me, raise your hand, ask questions, take me off on a tangent, it's okay. If I really feel that it's something that we should have a conversation about offline, we'll do that, so we can keep the conversation somewhat on track, but this isn't about me, it's about you and how you guys can utilize the skills that you're learning here and have already learned in your career, and how to make a difference. So we'll run through these topics today. What is forensic accounting, how you can assist in divorce, how you can assist business owners, and then how you can assist business owners and families from a financial services perspective. Is there anything on that list that anybody wants to really hear about, or is there more interest than others?
How about retirement plan?
Retirement plan, okay. That's an interesting topic. Tell me why that was.
I'm a little older, so. I'm very interested in retirement planning because, 10 years down the road, I'd like to retire.
Okay, well, that's interesting, and we don't even have to go off this slide. Has everybody else started to think about retirement? Fantasize about it?
I think about it.
Well, let me ask you to take a piece of paper for a minute. So we'll do a little career coaching tip. If you could, what would you do with your time, or what valuable life's work would you do with your time if you were retired? Travel? Where would you go?
Probably Thailand and like that whole area.
I gotta go.
I gotta get the real talk. They do good tailoring too.
Okay. So you'd want to see the world?
Yeah.
Okay. Particularly the Orient. What else would you do?
Teach.
Teach, yes.
Teach? What would you teach? Elementary, high school, college?
Adults.
Yeah,
What would you teach?
Personal finance. Accounting, of course, that's all writing down. And anything has to do with not making the mistakes that a lot of young people make when it comes to money.
Okay. We're hiring. Just let you know.
Pretty much the same thing. Business, accounting, finance, younger adults. I don't think I'd be cut out for, certainly not elementary or high school, but just to be able to translate, like you had just mentioned, like, I don't think there's a real grasp of how wealth is created, how things actually run. There's a lot of assumptions and preconceived notions as to how things work, and when you get into the nuts and bolts of it, it's actually a lot more interesting than I think a lot of people realize.
I agree. How do you think wealth is created?
By people busting their rear ends to try to give other
I
people
apologize
money.
to be rude. Is it okay if I wipe off your whiteboard? I can do it. Go ahead. I'm listening. Please continue.
Um,
Okay. Okay, I can't do it. I lied. There was no reason. Okay, I'm sorry. People think,
People trying to create something of value for someone else.
okay. You know what, it's interesting. I've learned in my professional life that we shouldn't use high concepts. We shouldn't use jargon. Is because at the end of the day, we don't want to leave anything up to interpretation. I know what I mean, but you don't necessarily know what I mean. And if I'm going to be able to explain something to you, I have to make sure that you're using the same set of language that I'm using, the same definition. So I might have a very different meaning to that word value than everybody else in this room. And in fact, I'm positive we all have a different definition of value. So when you said somebody creates value for somebody else, what did you mean by that?
So make it as simple as a cup of coffee.
Okay?
Okay. I really like coffee. I think the stuff that's out there isn't as good as it could be. I think I can come up with something where get a better product to people that they'll enjoy it. In a certain area, we know that there's a lot of different people who you know, everyone drinks coffee. We can make something a little bit better and do it in such a way where we'll give them the quality that they want, something that they're willing and able to spend their money on in return for it. So you're trying to give them something that give consumers what they want or need in exchange, you know, for services rendered or goods provided.
Okay.
That makes it worth your while to put the time and energy into giving it to your customers.
So that's a great definition of how to create profit in a business.
Right.
And I think you're right. Create value for other people and they will buy. So I'm going to come back to the original question of how is wealth created. And I think what is an interesting thought is that you immediately went to how to create a successful business. And so what I'm going to extract and bring back for you guys is that a business is a phenomenal way to create wealth. An ownership of a business is a phenomenal way to create wealth. So thank you for sharing. And then obviously a profitable business is one that certainly can help to create cash flow. There's a distinct difference though between the balance sheet, I think over here, between creating and building your personal balance sheet, your business balance sheet, and your statement of cash flow. Would you agree? So, as accountants, we understand the basic financial statement. I was deliberate with my colors because the technology that I utilize matches these colors. A balance sheet, as you all know, is assets minus liabilities, the difference of which is net worth. In personal finance, what do most people do? Do they focus on cash flow while they're accumulating, or do they focus on building their balance sheet? You're 10 years out or so from retirement.
I would think they focus on that.
On building up assets. What does other people think?
I agree.
Cash flow.
You think cash flow?
I think they're more worried about the cash coming in, cash that's available, cash
Right
for
now?
expenses.
Right now or at retirement?
Oh, at retirement, not at, no, right now,
Right now.
right now.
Okay.
No problem.
You're fine. Okay. So where was the business sit?
I would say,
Sorry, I'm sorry.
I would say P&L.
The cash flow from the business I take into my household, this is my personal financial statement. So the cash flow from the business hits cash flow. What's the value? Where's the value of the business sit?
I don't think people are thinking the value.
Oh, ask any business owner why they create wealth, why they started the business they started. The business that you just described, clearly you've had some time in on thinking about, dreaming about, fantasizing about how to make a better cup of coffee at the right price, that the consumer's gonna understand this is better than burnt coffee from Starbucks, yet you pay $4 for it, here's my $3 coffee, right? You've spent time on that. Why? What is it that you would want that business to do for your family, for you,
Create wealth.
to create wealth? So let's define it a little better in your world then. When you say to create wealth, do you need to make a big balance sheet, or do you need to produce cash flow?
Both.
Both. I have never met a business owner who says, I just got into business so that I can create the balance sheet of my personal life. Like, it's not just about what says, like, what the score is on the board. At the end of the day, if I can't take money out of that business, that's great that I have it, but if I can't turn it into cash flow that I can go and consume, does it really have value to me? It might have a business value, and as a forensic accountant, we can do the valuation. But why get up and put all the stress and equity and energy into it, and the heartache, and make it your baby, and put it in diapers, and burp it, and stay up like, late at night? I deal with all that. It's for personal consumption, to create personal wealth. In our industry, we define wealth in the business context from a balance sheet perspective. I think in America we do as well, on the individual side. And you shared before that we focus on building assets as individuals, because we have a perception that if we have enough in our nest egg, it will do what when we retire?
Generate future cash flows.
Generate future cash flow. So is it simple enough for us to just take a present value of those future cash flows to figure out, well, okay, this is where I am today, this is the future cash flow I want, what interest rate, what time period, this is how much money I'm gonna need to have? That's sufficient for retirement planning for our clients. I won't answer that. We'll let that one sit out there for a minute. What I find that my clients do, because I work with business owners every day, is that in their business life, they focus on cash flow. And they understand the power of cash flow when they go to banks and ask for lending. They understand the power of cash flow when their employees ask for more or want to produce more. They focus on cash flow, revenue. And then they'll tell you the multiple of revenue that they trade at. Usually it's made up in fantasy. They really don't understand how their businesses are valued. In our personal life, we focus on the balance sheet. Have you ever met anybody who might look really good on paper from a financial perspective, but doesn't have a pocket business? Pardon my French. Right? Why? They spend everything. And at the end of the day, if I have illiquid assets that can't generate income, how do I consume it? So when we talk with our clients, we really have to think about this dichotomy of, well, in our personal life, we hoard. We stack assets up on the balance sheet. We want that net worth number to be as big as it possibly can be without real regard for cash flow. That's future Amy's problem. I'll worry down the road how to generate income from that. And hopefully the expert will know what a safe withdrawal rate is. In our business life, when we talk with business owners about where they want to move next with their business, what they'll share is they want to open up another profit center, they want to acquire their vendor, they want to buy an office building, etc. Right? Revenue generating expansion. So I'll ask, okay, 4 years, 5 years from now, you want to pull that trigger, what has to occur in the business in order for you to be able to do that? What do you think the standard answer is from every business owner to hit expansion points, to know they're ready, to be able to pull a trigger? That light was really bright. What do you think?
Their demand reaches a certain point that they
Okay.
feel like it's not on kind of
How would they measure that demand? Sale. So it's always about when I hit this revenue number, or when my bottom line hits this number because I've cut down on expenses. It's always cash flow based. Now, interestingly, when do you buy a second home? Is it when your income hits a certain number?
When you have enough cash.
It's when you have enough cash, right? I have the down payment for it. And maybe some reserves, because we're accountants and we're conservative. Okay, maybe we have a year's worth of reserves. And then we have reserve for our reserve. And a contingency plan. Right? And it's worse for me in my household, because not only am I an accountant, but my husband's an asset protection attorney, an estate planning attorney. So he's like the little white angel that sits on all of his clients' shoulders that says, here's all the bad things that can happen if you take this risk. And then they say, okay, thank you for sharing that. I've considered that. I will take this protection device, but not this protection device. And they can walk out into the parking lot of our office building and flick the white angel off their shoulder and go, okay, well, I understand the risks, but I'm going to do it anyway. Because I'm comfortable that I'll be successful, or I'm willing to take the risk that I'll be successful. Me, I flick the white angel off my shoulder, and he comes home and gets therapy at night. So we definitely have to have the reserves and the liquidity. So why is it that the business owner doesn't set aside money for future expansion? I don't know that there's a right answer. I think that because no one's told them to. So if you're their accountant, what could you share with them that's different than just tallying up the results quarter to quarter or after year end from a tax perspective?
Long-range planning.
Okay.
Where, you know, if you want to be here in 5 years, this is the kind of things you're going to need to adjust in order to get there.
I want everyone to write that down. So if you're in the accounting role and you're working inside the company, if you're a consultant for a company, you need to be the person who's looking out the front window of a car and drive that car for them. I have very seldomly found in my career that accountants think forward. And with respect and love, coming from a place where, knowing I'm a CPA, I'm in your shoes, I stand alongside with you. I call our profession rear view planners. You come in and you tally up the results. You don't think forward. Yet, you're usually the smartest ones in the room. And not just simply because we know GAAP accounting, or even government accounting, which is spend more than you bring in and then just ask it for it from other people. Thank you, appreciate that. Exactly. I think they call it leverage. Forward thinking. How do I strategically set aside dollars? Because if revenue doesn't hit $5,122,923.52, should I not be able to take advantage of opportunity? If I only hit $4 million, but that vendor is ready for sale at that moment in time, and I haven't been smart and strategic, and I don't have a solid balance sheet, is the bank going to lend me to make up the difference in what I need for the purchase price? It's our job to help them to understand that their financial statements tell a story. And really, that's what forensic accounting is. It's allowing the information that you have in front of you to tell the story of what happened. And it's our job from a retirement income perspective to tell a different story. To talk with our clients about what life might look like at retirement so that they're in a position to understand how to and how fundamentally important their cash flow statement is. And I've done the exercise. I've polled all the accountants that I have personal relationships with, and I've asked them the question of, if you were looking at a company's or a family's set of financial statements, what's the most important financial statement in your opinion? Now, and I'll go around the room. What do you guys think?
Cash flows. a combination, I think, the income statement together with the balance sheet tells you how well you're doing now. And I believe that has to be, it's a cycle. If you create enough now, and you measure by cash flows, and you put it back into the balance sheet to create more, then you have a little bit of a flywheel effect where you actually are growing something. But you should also have an exit strategy, because when we first started the conversation, I want to go teach. Well, teach is freedom to do what you want to do, but you need to have all your ducks in a row. You need to have that bank account or that real estate that is providing the cash flows that you want, and keeping most of it instead of giving it to Uncle Sam.
Why? Anybody else have an opinion? And let's make sure everybody's on the same page. All opinions are equally valid. So just because I said that was wise, doesn't mean I'm saying that your opinion is wise. Anybody else have an opinion? Ever really thought about it?
When we first started talking, I'm not telling you denying, you gotta have a certain amount of assets when you're retire. And I sit down with people and say, you guys think this month you get this out of your money. But after this conversation, I realized, what you do after the time, I thought of it before. Where I sat down with them and said, well, what's your budget? What are your expenses now? What are your expenses over time? So I think along now, the balance is important, but how you fund your living expenses.
Ah,
And I just say, oh, I hit the number, I hit the age, now I'm done. Everybody do your time after.
interesting.
If you burn up you're using more than, let's say you're making X amount of dollars more, and then you go and retire, and a lot of people say you gotta do that 85%. Are you ready to do that? And if you are, how do you bring that 85%? You know,
I definitely do know what you're talking
Cash
about.
flow, and it's also balance sheet.
Really interesting point in there. So you said, are you ready to pare down to that? So let me ask you a question. By show of hands, how many of you today are saving 15% of your gross household income? Thank you. I apologize. I just used jargon, and I just said not to do that. Saving, for the context of this question, I mean setting aside $1 for future use. What I don't mean is risk-based versus non-risk-based, right? Saving into a bank account would be saving. Putting money into my 401k, if I'm putting it into anything other than the money market fund, and I'm taking risk with it, is investing. So thank you. You triggered that for me. And so simply put, I just meant the generic version of setting aside $1 for tomorrow. How many people are setting aside more than 15%? So I'll pose a different question. If you can't save 15% now, if what everybody is saying is you have to pare down to 85% of your lifestyle when you retire, how do you cut back debt?
Well, by then, I'm under 15, but over 10, so but
Good.
by then, you would own your house, so, you kind of retire some debts,
Mhm.
kind of have that part of your plan. Right?
So your
you're
balance
spending
sheet looks
less.
better,
Yes, and your cash flow looks better.
okay? So the dollar's not going out to the mortgage, so therefore I have that dollar to consume, or I don't need that dollar, period, so it's okay that it's not
And
coming
that's
in,
what you do.
okay?
Or like sometimes you can't just like count that as a mandatory. Like if you buy property, that's your savings too. Like this is how I looked at it, because then you can rent it out and this is your investment technically.
Mhm.
So sometimes you don't have a cash to put aside, but you have tangible assets.
That produces cash flow.
Exactly.
Well,
This is a great conversation.
Well,
Continue.
I know, I threw the 85% number out there, that's assuming everything stays the same. As you get older, all of a sudden, your health starts to go, and people house is paid off, but now you're paying more dollars. I mean, when I sit down with an investment person, they always say, no, you have one fair share. You never thought of that, and then as you get older, you realize, oh my gosh, you know, I'm gonna pay off my house, have the investment, then I'm gonna get sick, and then I'm gonna, you know.
Let's stop before I even get to the point of sick, but it's an excellent point, we'll come back
Things
to
happen.
I call them life events. It definitely does happen.
Yeah.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
And roll on.
Let's come back to a second. Anybody doing taxes? Yes. Anybody want to be doing taxes for a client?
Yes.
Anybody, everybody else does their own taxes, or they see a CPA to do the tax work for them? Great, show of hands, you do your own taxes? Okay, so I know what I'm not, and I don't do my own taxes. I have a CPA who does that. And when I say I know what I'm not, I mean, like, if my heart hurts, I'm gonna go to a cardiologist, I'm not gonna go to a podiatrist. Right, and so that's not what I specialize in. I don't specialize in tallying up the results of last year's tax year. I strategically tax plan going forward. So I have somebody who I work with. And so when we first started to work together, because our firms have a joint venture agreement now, I sat in his office and he said to me, like almost every accountant does to successful people, the end of the year, the large tax liability, you have to write a check. I'm sorry to deliver the bad news. However, if you blank, the taxes will come down. What's the blank? If I fund my IRA. So the conversation that we were having was in my early 30s. Do you think that it's possible that I'm a little more successful today, in my late 30s, almost 40s, than I was in my early 30s? Do you think that it's possible that I'll be even more successful by the time I'm in my 50s than I am today? I'm going to do more than hope. But that's just because it's my life and I can control that, right? So it's possible that that could occur, right? So where is the knee-jerk reaction coming from then to say put money into the IRA if you're standing with a young, successful person who's on the move, who's headed in a direction of growth, of creating wealth? And as I define wealth based on cash flow, not per se balance sheet. Does it make logical sense for me to take $1 and delay the timing of taxation of it? And how do we consider it?
Well, I mean, okay, so if it goes into the IRA, it's gonna be worth more, and then it's taxable at the lower rate in the future.
Tell me where the lower rate comes from.
Well, it's capital gain, not income.
Let's just sidebar that for a second. $1 that I earn, that's earned income, that gets put into a retirement account and waits until retirement to come back out, has never been taxed as earned income.
Right.
So it's gonna come out and be ordinary income and taxed as income, not as capital.
Okay.
Just so that we're all on the same page. But go on.
Right, so what you're doing today is if you have to make the calculation in your head is what's the marginal tax rate on that dollar, okay? And what do you foresee, it comes down to present versus future value. Is it gonna be worth more in the future than, say, 65 cents today? Do I need the 65 cents today? If you don't need the 65 cents today of that dollar,
Just put it on the retirement plan. Go on.
then would it be worth more in the future? That's what it boils down to.
You also have to consider how much money you're saving in your taxes now. There's a value to that money in the future as well.
Right.
May I ask you a question? How is it that you decided that I was saving dollars in my tax? How is it that you decided I've saved tax dollars today by making an IRA contribution?
Because you're lowering your tax burden
I'm lowering my tax burden.
or your tax liability.
Do we have internet access in here?
Very limited.
Yes?
depends.
It looks like you're already on it.
Or you consider Roth IRA.
Is that right?
By the way, Joe, make a small amount of money as a salary. Let's say $2,000 IRA is deductible. Someone who is not making $200,000.
All right, so let's get facts first, and then we can go to opinion. Fact is, traditional IRA, 401k, 403b, 412I plan, defined benefit plan. Those are dollars that have never been taxed, grow tax deferred, and when you take money out of those accounts, taxable, income tax purposes. Roth, tax today on the dollar I earned, after tax, thank you, net contribution goes into the account, grows tax-free withdrawal, as long as you follow the rules of the
How
jail.
much and what, right?
Ward and his Uncle Sam, he's not nice. So as long as you follow his rules, that's the way the tax is. So I earn $1. I'm just gonna try to show this to you instead of sketching it out, but I think it's 52 months. How did we find that in your research again?
No, I'll read it, because they don't have one, so I'll do it. No.
That's all right, I'm not, it's okay, I can wash my hands. Okay. Now we can touch my hands. If I earn $10 and I'm in a 30% tax liability, or tax bracket, I would normally pay $3 in tax. $7 goes to my family. You get that, right? If I make the retirement contribution, my 10 goes down to 5. Well, I guess I can't put 50% of my wealth now, right? So I put $1 away. I have a $9 taxable income now. What's the tax liability that I'm gonna pay? In the same bracket.
2.7.
Okay. Is it fair for me to round, or is it such a big account to get? Accountants, so we gotta go to the right. Okay.
Conservatism says use 3.
It is reasonable. Where's the tax savings that I experienced today? Do I have more money in my pocket today to pay my mortgage, to feed my family, try to go to Disney? Do I? Where is the tax? It's not saved. It's deferred. So where is it? It's in the account, yes.
You're assuming you're making more money in the future, right?
I am.
So,
Well, it is my right, not everybody else's right, but yes.
but your tax rate today might be, let's just say for argument's sake, 40% of your high income. When you retire, not start early, I'm taking out whatever, you're assuming you're making less money, and the tax rate is lower.
Great question and great observation of what the industry tells you.
Yeah.
And in fact, it's what-
I learned that one the hard way too.
So- Hold hands, raise them high. When you retire, do you want less money than you were making before you retired? Raise them up. Do you want less?
No, I want just as much.
So what you're saying is that we are told that we will need less. But what our clients want is not that. And I haven't met anyone yet that does want it. And in fact, I just attended the Personal Financial Planning Conference from the AICPA, and there was a really interesting economist who spoke. I believe he was one of Clinton's cabinet members. And what he shared was that there was research done that a household that was considered a high income earner, and I'm going to let you know a little secret, those of us here in the Northeast don't define high income earners the same way as the rest of the country. So families and households that were making in excess of $150,000 prior to retirement or while they're still working, we're surveyed. The ones that were already retired, 98% of them said that what they wanted in retirement now while they were retired was 100% replacement of their pre-retirement income. 87% of the workers said the same thing. They want 100% replacement. So why are we building our math for less? Why are we intentionally structuring our clients for failure?
Fear.
What was the answer? Fear of what?
I can't make that money. I mean, that's what you mean, that's what you insult them.
I think the advisor is afraid of telling their clients that they have the job of the heavy lifting. I think that's really the fear. What I mean by that is the fear of having to say, you're not saving enough. There's a gap. Cash flow allocation will be asset allocation 100% of the time. I could get a 20% return, I can get a 5% return. If I'm not putting enough into that engine, I'm not gonna have enough. Like, it doesn't matter if I go to the gas station and I get the cheapest grade gas, I get 87, or I get that premium, my Lexus is still gonna take me from A to B. Right? Maybe one will be slightly more efficient than the other, but I still have to physically put gas in the car, otherwise I would have been sitting on the side of the road on Route 1, had I not stopped at the light above. That keeps my husband from not talking that. That will be a discussion later. So, if our clients don't want less, why do we plan for it? If I recommend to put the $5,000 into my retirement account for the perceived saving today, if the dollar's actually inside of the retirement account, where is the saving? How do I spend it? I love shoes. Can I buy shoes with that dollar? No, what I can do is self-direct the retirement account and start a shoe business. That I could do inside the retirement account. But I can't buy shoes and put them on like you today. It's in financial jail. And I am making the assumption that I will be in a higher tax bracket. We talked about, somebody said pay off the mortgage. W-2 employees, what are their tax write-offs? What tax write-offs do they have? You fill out your own 1040s, what do you have? What are their best write-offs?
Interest.
Mortgage interest, great, what else? What else?
Kids.
Kids. Anybody in here parents?
Instant, there you go.
As parents, kids are already college age, post-college, pre-college?
11 and 8.
Okay, so we got some time, still saving for college.
That's why he doesn't want to teach young
In
children.
college now. So when your kids were looking at schools, when you were looking at what options were available to them, were you sitting at your kitchen table with all the brochures and the college advisors and so forth saying, my goal is to spend all of the money I saved for college and to spend it all? Or were you saying, my goal is to give my child the best possible start in life so that they can go out and make a life for themselves? The latter. The latter. I know you guys are parents. What do you think you would be looking at? I want to spend my money and give it all away, or I want to educate my kids and give them the best possible start in life. And so what our clients want is to give our kids the best possible options in life to be as successful as possible. And in reality, what we really want is for them not to end up in our basement living off of our dime again. But then we get to keep them as a dependent, so that works. So if we do that and we're successful in that and they can move off into their own life and start their life and earn a living themselves, I don't get to have them as a dependent anymore. And my mortgage is fully paid off. So if what I want is the same amount of money when I retire as I was making prior to retirement, and I don't have a mortgage interest, no more mortgage, so the interest write-off is gone, my kids are out of the house and grown, so my dependent write-off is gone. You mentioned effective tax bracket. Might I be in a higher effective tax bracket? I might. When did financial planning come into invention? Any idea? Dr. Goodman, no? In the 70s. talk about that second. In the 70s, what was the highest marginal tax bracket in the 70s? You might be able to help us out. Remember?
For individuals.
Individuals, the highest marginal tax bracket in the 70s.
I didn't pay tax. I
98%.
Good for you.
90, 75 to 90?
70%. 90% was when Arnold
In the
Palmer won the
60s.
US Open, he won $1 million. 70%. So let's think that through for a minute. We are in 70% highest effective tax bracket. What percentage of workers, give me a guess, had pensions in the 70s?
80, didn't we look at this?
Yeah, it was like.
85, and
It was greater than
85%.
50, yeah.
Perfect. 85%. What percentage of workers have a pension today?
Come on.
Fine, wait, it's 7.
15.
Okay. Oh, it's 7% of public service.
Great. I'm not sure where you're getting your knowledge from, but it's good information. 15% now. So back in the 70s, highest effective tax bracket, 70%. Most workers have pensions. Section 401k was enacted as a place for highly compensated executives to put excess savings into. It was gravy. Those guys did a great job at tax deferral and deferring to a lower tax bracket. Even if they're replacing 100% of the income they made then, which they would feel unsuccessful if they did, wouldn't they be in a lower tax bracket? So we have to think about where advice is coming from today and what that history is behind it, because the environment isn't the same today. And it may not make sense to just simply say, make the IRA contribution. I know that wasn't your advice to me, but thank you for sharing. Does that make sense? We need to do more for our clients than just tally up results. We need to think. What's the worst thing that happens if they arrive at retirement without qualified money,
Continue
but
working.
other assets?
Continue working.
Let me rephrase the question. If they arrive at retirement without qualified assets, but they have other assets, like real estate, or just mutual and stocks, or a business and a piece of real estate that the business has operated out of, but no 401k IRA, what's the worst thing that happens?
Cash out.
They sell. So just because I didn't put it into a tax qualified structure doesn't mean I can't consume it down the road. It just simply means that I'm not dependent upon future loss. Right? That make sense? So my industry likes to focus on accumulation. And they do math. And as accountants, we all understand that 1 + 1 always equals 2. Which equals 2 always equals 4. In fact, my 4th grader and even my 1st grader understand that concept. Math is always accurate. It is money math. No, it's science. So just because something works mathematically doesn't mean that it will work out in reality. So we have to treat our business owners' lives and our families' lives and their money in a little test lab. And put different eroding factors into the mix. Stress test it. Because what could prevent them from getting there? What could prevent somebody from achieving freedom, as you eloquently stated before?
Life events.
Life events, like what?
Sickness in the family.
Yep.
Um,
Meaning?
earner, the main earner passes away.
Okay. Death of the breadwinner? Definitely.
Tax laws change.
Cash flow change. You mentioned illness in the family. Breadwinner gets sick, becomes disabled, unable to go to work, produce that living. Parents, as they age, might cause one of the 2 workers in the household to work less or not work at all to be that caregiver role. Or they can't, but they have to stroke a check to take care of mom and dad because they didn't plan as well or couldn't plan as well. Death, disability, and what else? What else could interrupt cash flow or remove assets from the balance sheet?
Loss of job.
Right, absolutely could stop income, so that would be an involuntary cash flow interruption. What else?
Economy change.
Sure, cash flow becoming underemployed or becoming unemployed, cash flow shrinking,
Just poor planning.
sure. That would definitely have an impact, but what else?
Fraud?
What?
Fraud? Someone stealing from you?
Ooh, okay, yes, but that's harder to plan for and control, because we have to make certain assumptions that people will have integrity. But yes, definitely. What about lawsuits? Divorce? Taxes? Somebody slips and falls in front of your house, you don't have adequate insurance, and you're sued. What might happen to your balance sheet?
It doesn't.
Could be. And what would that do to your cash flow?
Decrease as well.
Maybe. If you bought a rental property, it might decrease cash flow. Might not. Like, I might get up and go to work the next day. But it's gonna be a lot harder to arrive at retirement and be successful at retirement if I was planning on living off of that nest egg. So, every single business owner, every single client, whether you're looking at stealing or not, whether you're evaluating for business expansion, or just preparing their taxes, at the end of the day, every single one of them are susceptible to eroding factors of their wealth. And every single one of them are really traveling on two parallel lines. What I mean by that is they're traveling on a line of protection and wealth accumulation. And by protection, I mean protection from lawsuits, taxes, divorce, transfer taxes, disability, and death. And by wealth accumulation, I mean creating capital. Capital to fulfill obligations now and well into the future for perpetuity. Cash flow to allow me to have the ability to exploit opportunity. And by that I mean buying businesses, starting businesses, growing businesses, buying rental properties, because that's really how wealth is created in this country. That make sense? Fulfill an obligation, avoid threats, and to have cash flow to enjoy and exploit opportunity, to create more wealth. So we have to understand that we need to protect the wealth accumulation process because wealth accumulation takes time. And you need to afford your clients the opportunity to have that time. Does that make sense? So in my practice, we handle both for our clients, and I find that in our industry, most people really focus on one or the other. Does that make sense? So what I want really to share with you and to urge is for you, rather than just to make simple recommendations based on what you've heard or what you believe, stress test it. I urge you to consider that the environment today is not the environment that our parents grew up in. Tax laws are not the same. And that bad things happen along the way. That make sense? And you all need, your clients need, the businesses need liquidity. I wrote control down before. They need to have cash control. They need to be able to get their hands on money when they want it, when they need it. Otherwise, bad things happen. Right? I mean, I could go into more detail, but that's what bad things happen, like bankruptcy, as an extreme. Any questions on that? for retirement, to answer your question, I urge you to consider the cash flow result and not the balance sheet result. And assess your financial life that way. It doesn't matter if I put my balance sheet on the board right now, and my balance sheet said I was worth $20 million, I'm not. But if I put my balance sheet up and it said that, and that's all I showed you, you would think I was wealthy, wouldn't you? But if I had inherited a vacant piece of land with EPA issues in it, but it was 20,000 acres, it might be worth a heck of a lot of money, value-wise. Can I do anything with it to produce revenue?
You know,
Can I sell it? No, no one wants it.
I had heard one time that there's a distinction between rich and wealthy. The rich still work for their money, but when they're wealthy, the money's working for you.
It's a really interesting definition. I think if you frame your finances under those definitions, you'll be successful. Those are jargon again, right? So I like the definitions a lot, it just has to resonate for you. I think that wealth is really a function of cash flow. Like if I turn around and say, guys, guess what? I really like you. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna give everybody $50,000 more a year. And I'm just gonna write the check. I have $20 million net worth, so I feel generous today. Would everybody in this room feel wealthier? You're gonna guarantee that you'd have $50,000 a year every year for the rest of your life? Okay. What was that? You framed that interestingly.
Every year is different, and $50,000 one time, I feel, to your point, richer maybe, but not necessarily in the long run. I mean,
Right. So, but what if I said instead, okay, so that's a really great point. So what if I said instead, I'm gonna give you the $50,000. You don't owe me anything back for it. I just like you, like the way you think. But you have to use that money to go buy a piece of rental property, and it has to cash flow at least $1,000 a month, meaning I could put $1,000 a month in my pocket. Might you feel differently about the $50,000?
maybe, yeah.
Down payment,
Yeah, no, but yeah.
definitely you would feel wealthier.
Yeah.
Extra $1,000 a month. Anybody else would like $1,000 a month? I mean, I don't.
walk there with just $50K, you expect that you can get a return on it, no matter what you do.
Sure. But really, the power is in the cash flow that it generates.
All right.
The same result. I don't feel as wealthy as the $50,000 annuity for the rest of my life. It's only $12,000, and I got to change toilets when they overflow, and deal with with tenants. If I could hire a property manager, and I could make $900 instead of $1,000, and not have to deal with some of that stuff. Right? The power is in the cash flow. Think about it. Like when you really think about it, it's about the cash flow statement. Who will actually enjoy the real estate, or the money in the bank, or the asset in the retirement account? Who does the balance sheet really belong to in a family enterprise? And I don't mean a family business, I mean like in a household. Who does the balance sheet really belong to? I don't mean titling, legally. Whose is it? You have kids. Whose is it? Yours or theirs?
Theirs,
Today or tomorrow?
tomorrow.
Why do you say that?
Because you're building something for them. They don't have the ability to handle it right now, but if you keep it safe, you can pass it down, and so on and so forth.
Okay.
Grandchildren and so on and so forth.
Right. So the thought process for most people is that if I have a large enough pile of assets at retirement, it can be invested to produce cash flow. Correct? I can live off the cash flow. They can have the asset. So
And then enjoy the cash flow later on.
absolutely.
Direct, to generate future.
Your net worth isn't owned by you. It's really your children's deferred asset. The cash flow is yours. So again, I urge you, when you're thinking about exit strategy, we have to think about cash flow. If you could position a business owner so that they could spend all of their assets down to zero, and then when they die, refill the kitty for them. Like, so if they arrive at retirement with $10 million and they spend every penny of it, bounce the check to the undertaker. And like 2 weeks later, $10 million shows up in a bank account for his heirs. Might he have a very different financial life at retirement than if he arrived at 10 million and we used a safe withdrawal rate of 4% and he took $400,000 a year off the account and left $10 million? What do you think? Might he have some different tax savings if he had assets that had basis instead of deferred taxation? If I've already been taxed and it's my money, I'm not going to be taxed again, so when I withdraw from the account next year, there's a little bit less interest earned, correct? Tax-wise, that's a good thing. I pay less income taxes. I have to take a little bit more out of my account again, though. That's scary. What if I outlive it? So we also have to be able to build guarantees for our clients that they can outlive their money. But what might the cash flow result be if we give people permission to spend principal and interest, and not just interest, or not just rent, or dividends, and so forth? So forget the math. Think about how assets can be utilized together and how to leverage protection to create greater cash flow results, because that's what every client wants. Respectfully, I don't care what my clients need. And I tell them that straight in the face. I don't care. What I care about is what you want. And if I can't get you all the way to what you want, we're going to get you a hell of a lot further than your need. Because what you need is shelter and food. I like steak, but I'm not going to go to Applebee's and get a steak. If I go to Applebee's, I'm going to order a salad. If I want a steak, I'm going to go to Capital Grill or Morton's. Right? There's a very big difference between want and need. I'm at 11. You want me to keep going? Because I'm going to shift into forensic accounting now. Okay. So let's look at a case study of forensic accounting, because that was what you guys wanted to specifically talk about. Did I get anybody thinking?
Mm-hmm.
My conclusion on retirement planning, my concluding thought, not necessarily my conclusion, I apologize, is don't just mindlessly dollar cost average into a bucket and let it sit there for an extended period of time, hoping that it will grow and hoping that you'll be in a lower tax bracket. Because what you really want is to be in a highest tax bracket as possible with really good tax deductions to minimize my tax liability so I can control more of my cash. But what I want is that line one of my tax return to be as massive as it possibly can be. Like, how much do you want at retirement? How much do you need at retirement? The only right answer is as much as I could possibly have. And if it's too much, I'll figure out a way to give it to the people and organizations that I love and care about. That's what I call a great problem to have. But I can assure you that I haven't found anybody yet who has that. Thanks for producing 30% more a year, but I was really happy with living just off of interest, so I'll, just support X, Y, Z. So they create experiences with the X, Y, Z. They take the whole family on vacation. They go to Thailand and they bring the grandchildren.
There you go.
Right? They don't just go to Thailand. They do like my parents, who are away 64 nights this winter. Like, I want to be you when I grow up. Only difference is that I would rather it not be 64 nights. I'd rather it be 364 nights. Make sense? Think about having access to capital. And if you want to start a business, the banks don't care if it's in a retirement account. They're not lending against it. The banks want real assets to lend against. They want collateral like real estate. Or if they're going to give you an unsecured line, they are focusing on cash flow and receivable. Yes? So if that's the way the bank is treating a business, organize your personal financial life in the same regard. It is smart to stack assets on the balance sheet, but choose the assets wisely. Are they going to be income producing? How are you going to produce income from them? If I can't produce income from my primary home, is it an asset or a liability? That's not rhetorical. In my opinion, it's a liability. Where would we book it? We would book it on the asset domain of a balance sheet. We own it, it's ours, but it always costs us money. So how do you turn your primary residence into an income-producing asset for yourself at retirement? If you can't or don't want to, because you don't like the strategies that are available to you, like a reverse mortgage, or taking in a boarder, or selling the home, and living in a tent, or with a family member, because you always have to replace your shelter, then consider whether or not it makes sense to accelerate the repayment of that debt. Like, does it make sense to have a 15-year mortgage? Maybe, if I'm saving more than 15 to 20% of my household income. Maybe. But if I'm not, does it make sense to send the extra couple $100s to the mortgage company every month instead of having it on hand? What happens at the end of the 15 years or the 22 years if you use the bi-weekly pay down of a mortgage process? What happens from a tax perspective when the mortgage is gone?
You don't have a deduction.
They don't have the deduction. So if I used to get a $5,000 write-off from my mortgage interest, and I don't have that now, I'm giving the government an extra $5,000. So I'm in the same tax brackets are exactly the same.
And it actually happens before you actually bring the balance down to zero because it.
The way the amortization schedule works. Absolutely. What does it cost me to not have that tax deduction anymore for the last 15 years of the mortgage? What does it cost the business owner if they use the accelerated depreciation law that just came out for this year? Are you guys familiar at all with the... So this building, if I owned it, the building itself would have been normally depreciated over, it's a commercial property, normally depreciated over what time frame? Sorry? 39 years. Straight line? Straight line, right? Residential real estate, 27 and a half years. Yet if it was not the building that we owned, but we only own the light fixtures, it would be what year property? 5 to 7 year property, depending, I don't know if lights are 5 or 7. So you may be right, we'll go with 5. So what component depreciation, it's been around, but what the push is now is I could schedule out the 15 lights that are in this building and depreciate the value of those lights over the 5-year time frame, while I'm depreciating the rest of the building over 39 years. I get a much bigger bang for my tax buck today, a better deduction. What? Be the accountant who thinks out the front window. What issue or concern do I have to solve for my client?
What happened after 5 years?
What happens after 5 years? You're gonna go buy new lights and redepreciate them? Maybe. But where are they getting the money from?
But the problem is, like, what if they need money now? So they would go for it because that's their own decision. Like, you don't know the life circumstances.
That's interesting. Expand on that for me.
Let's say if you're a business owner and you have opportunity to get extra cash, which much you don't want to spend on taxes if you can develop something new like software or like some research, then you really need that money and you will get more like extra return. So that makes sense to have 5-year depreciation versus 15 years.
I agree. It may make a lot of sense for that business owner in that situation. What I like is that she went to what else is going on. It's not just a straightforward answer. What else is going on in that business owner's life? We're gonna have a second. And I might need the cash now, but I might also need the cash 6 years from now. So if I accelerate that depreciation today, what should I start to also think about today? And this is a rhetorical question. What should I also think about doing today to position myself to create a new version of that tax deduction in year 6? Because I haven't met a business owner who doesn't want more access to capital, even if their business is unbelievably successful under their definition. That was great. Thank you for the question.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about what you said about the mortgage. So, say I have the house, I get $10,000 a year interest put up, and I'm in the 30% tax bracket, so I get my $3,000 savings. That puts me, it costs me $7 grand to hold that asset. If I pay off the mortgage, that 10 grand's taxed at 30%, but I still have 7 grand that I get back.
Say that again. That I had 10 grand.
I had 10
I had
grand.
$3,000 write-off. I had a net of 7.
So
I now have
when
no
I have the
mortgage.
mortgage, I have to pay 7 grand towards the house for the interest, but when I don't have the mortgage, I only have to pay 3 grand to the government. So don't I have an extra 4 grand?
Yes. Prior to that, for the first 15 years, didn't I have less money? You didn't give me the numbers. Well, in order to have the $10,000 mortgage interest,
Because you were saying
I
that,
agree with you. I want to walk you through the whole thing. It's a coaching exercise, so work with me here for a minute. Okay. Because you're right. And there's more to this discussion. So if I'm paying $10,000 a year in mortgage interest, let's say the mortgage is costing $20,000 a year. And I'm paying principal, right? That's the 15-year mortgage. What might the 30-year mortgage be on an annual basis? Maybe 15? Right, everybody understand when we amortize over a longer period of time, the monthly payment's gonna be lower? Okay, so what did I not do in those first 15 years with the extra 5 grand?
okay, you're saying more for taxes on.
Nope. Let's get some whiteboard out. Ooh, look, David. Okay. For the moment, let's just keep the interest the same, okay? Right, this is the interest.
It's not the same because interest not going to be the same for 15 years, it's going to be lower
You're right. You're right. Why does the bank do that?
because they want the, to
Why do
pay
they,
off.
why do they want to give you that incentive?
Because basically you're
That's risk for them.
at less risk, and plus they get their return in 15 years, you know.
They can use that money for another loan
Yes.
When
in year 15.
and
Start no money.
And
a
plus
couple of
it's
things to
more-
understand. The bank needs to have a single deposit, $1, in order to lend out, how many dollars? What? What's that? The reserve requirement, minimum, $1 in deposit in order to lend out,
Well, it depends on the size of the bank. It's
you're
about
right,
10 to 27.
10 is a minimum. So, all of what you shared is accurate, but think fundamentally, you're on the board of the bank. What do you want?
More cash now.
I want more money coming in now, so I have a greater deposit now, so I can lend out more. Right? And how often are mortgages refinanced?
Average 7 years.
Every 5 to 7 years. That statistic doesn't say 30-year, 15-year. It's just every 5 to 7 years, the consumer refinances their mortgage. It will be interesting to see if those statistics change with the low interest rate environment we've been experiencing. It is. That's a, in my opinion, a good.
But they're going to adjust in 6 months. I believe. So
We'll
it's
see.
not, now it's going,
We'll
it's
see.
going
We'll get
lower.
closer to an election, so we'll see. So if the consumer is going to refinance every 5 to 7 months, is it every 5 to 7 years, and more money's flowing in now, is it really about risk to the bank? Because every mortgage is going to come off the books in 5 to 7 years. It's really about cash control, having more deposits. So they incentivize you. Well, 3 and an 8 is cheaper than 3 and a half. And the consumer goes, I learned that in first grade. You're right. But I'm putting more output out towards the mortgage. If everybody has a finite amount of resources, more going out there, you said it before, I'm not paying for XYZ anymore, but now I'm paying for healthcare. It's just a shift in the budget. So if I'm spending it on my mortgage, I am not saving it. So if I am not saving it, coming back to our coaching session now, you have a little more context. If I'm spending $5,000 more a year than I otherwise could be if I had a 30-year mortgage, I am not setting aside $5,000 every year.
But you already have this property which paid off that you can actually borrow, like have other mortgage for bigger house and have it as an investment. So it's kind of process. So you still have that deduction, but you paid off already for 15 years your mortgage.
Yep, you're
So-
thinking much more entrepreneurial than the average household. You're right. But that's interesting though, because what your result was, I gave it to them, and then I'm going to take it from them again. I'm going to borrow again. Anybody own a home in the 80s? I didn't. Sharon, mortgage was?
I remember the exact.
20 something?
With the rates.
17, 18%.
18%? We don't know what that environment's going to look like when I want my money again. And we don't know if they'll say yes to me. So, what if I haven't saved the $5,000 a year, what did I give up during those 15 years?
I guess you gotta figure out, second, if, what I'm saving on a deduction is greater than what I'm saving by paying it off with it, right?
Great. So let's think about then, what are we saving? If I could have taken that $5,000 and put it into any investment,
Right, can I produce more?
could I have produced more? And in fact, before we even go to more, what I give up by exchanging my money to the mortgage company instead of into an investment account is the growth on those investments. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So when I spend money, I don't just spend $1. I spend $1 and the future growth of that dollar. That's called lost opportunity cost. They don't teach that in accounting. That's an economic concept. Every time we utilize $1, we lose its ability to have earned at our highest possible rate of return. Except in my office, shoes and pocketbooks have no lost opportunity cost. Does that make sense? So, if I have a 15-year mortgage, I don't save for the first 15 years, that excess. Now, I have the full payment to save. That's the thought. Does that make sense? Exponential growth curve. Does it look like this? Or does it typically look like that? This one, right? Where does all the compounding occur? Towards the end. So what is this family giving up by starting here? Like this they're not actually walking into the exponential growth curve here, they're walking into it here. Yes, they're putting more into the engine, but they've lost out on time. So what if you had a 30-year mortgage, you could afford the 15-year mortgage payment and you just saved the difference every year? Couldn't you potentially, depending upon where you put it, take the money out of the account and pay off the mortgage at the end of the 15th year? But along the way, if life events occur, or the coffee shop is ready to be open, and you need to have some skin in the game according to the SBA, you have cash.
Yeah, but sometimes refinance, it's actually give you same amount of mortgage, but for 15 years if your comps, like, because it kind of works, you know, like, you have to have appraisal, like, you know, if your value property is up, right? So basically the appraisal comes out 100K more than like you bought a house, then your payment is going to be exactly the same for 15 years as for 30. So basically you don't lose anything, but you have less liability.
Sure, I don't lose anything in fair market value, but I lost something on the cash. I lost the growth on the cash.
Yes.
The value of my home is not determined based off of the amount of my mortgage or what it costs for me to turn the lights on. The cash has nothing to do with that valuation. If I'm valuing a business, I could use a couple of different methods. I could use the book value method. I could use the weighted average discounted method. That's the future cash flow discounted. And I could use comparables. What did other business trade for? Yes? But when it comes to real estate, I don't get that option unless it's commercial. What it's valued off of is what I'm willing to exchange.
Because my
it for.
husband does mortgages, so basically what I've been told, and because we are looking into finance, so basically our mortgage is going to be exactly the same, except it's going to be 15-year mortgage.
Exactly the same
as our payment that we're paying now.
Okay. Wouldn't it be less if it was a 30-year?
Because now we're doing refinance. So basically,
Oh, okay. Got it.
we are
So because the
refinancing.
interest rate is lower, my payment's the same, but I pay it off in 15 years.
And the value of the house goes up, so our payment's going to be the same as for 30 years, but it's going to be 15 years.
As your current
As
30
your
years.
current 30-year, but if you refinance today, your new 30-year mortgage would be less cash
Less,
flow.
yes.
Okay, so it's one, if there's still that delta that exists, that, like keeps hitting me, so the delta still exists. Yes?
Yes.
I understand what you're saying. From an output perspective, my 30-year mortgage that I have now, I can make the same exact payment, and it's done in 15 years instead of the 28 years I have left on my existing mortgage.
Right. Otherwise,
Makes
but
sense.
if you did 30-year, you have
Yes.
increased cash flow today.
Except with this, the good news is in year one, you're gonna get this reset of the amortization schedule, so you have a really nice tax deduction now, but what happens when the tax deduction's gone? Faster. And I have equity, so I can leverage again, I can take my home equity line of credit and I can go buy another rental property, but couldn't I do that anyway if I had cash?
Now.
It's not right or wrong, I'm asking you just to think about it.
Because the way how we plan,
I don't know enough
You
about
know,
you to
like,
say
yeah.
right or wrong for you.
yeah, because
what you
I
think.
think it's really up to each person of their perception. If you kind of okay with your financials, because I think there's no one unique answer for everyone,
Couldn't
like
agree more.
general. Because everybody, if I'm coming like for advisor, right, and I have my kind of like mindset, and if I'm gonna get some advice that's really not going into my perception set, then I'm gonna be unhappy.
I couldn't agree more with you.
Yeah.
You're right.
So basically, this planning is really about like your perception, what you think is right for you. And
Okay, so what I will share with you is, you're, in my opinion, 100% accurate. What I have found in my experiences is that my client, or the potential client, absolutely has a set of opinions and beliefs and perceptions. In fact, when they walk in and I put their balance sheet and their income statement up on the board, all their balance sheet really is a reflection of all their perceptions, right? So you're 100% right. And what I'm not doing in this discussion is sitting down one-on-one and understanding what makes you guys tick, right? And of course, we do that in our business. We can't do that here. So you're right, the first place is to understand what they want, to be able to create value for them. Okay? And so I would sit with a client, I work with real estate investors all day long. In fact, 60% of my practice invest in real estate. Either full-time, part-time, or they're striving to be a full-time real estate investor. I'm a real estate investor myself. And what I have always found is that what their issue is, their number one threat, is that they don't have enough capital. And the thought process is, well, I could just borrow again. I could just borrow again. I'll leverage again. Until they do. What happens if they get sued? What happens if they get sick? What happens if somebody dies? What happens if the interest rates are so much higher that when they want to take it out, the deal doesn't make sense anymore? What happens if by not having that interest rate deduction, you fall in a higher tax bracket, you have a tax liability, and you don't have cash on hand to handle it? So there's a lot more to the discussion than just is it or is it not. What I can tell you is from an economic perspective, the lost opportunity cost of the growth of the money makes the 15-year mortgage and the 30-year mortgage exactly the same cost. The bank knows it. I've studied this extensively. It is exactly the same. And so what I will say is that every single client's perception is valid. Every opinion is valid, but not every opinion is equally persuasive. And so what I have to do as the advisor in the room is to understand and validate your perceptions so that you're open-minded to understand mine. And if mine is compelling in your life, you'll pull a trigger. If it's not, you'll pull a different trigger. Either walk out of my office, not implement, or we'll implement something together, something different together. It was a great observation, so thank you. But coming back to the 15-year versus the 30-year, what power may exist in having that side cash account?
Jump in an opportunity.
I could exploit an opportunity. And I think the key is to create balance. It can't all go into long-term. It can't all go into short-term. Build mid-term. Build an opportunity fund. And if you're already saving, and saving 15 to 20%, then go ahead and pay your mortgage off that. But if you're not, consider where that cash flow can come from. And look at it from the perspective of lost opportunity cost. And by lost opportunity cost, again, I mean taking $1 and not earning. And I don't not earn that 1 year, I don't not earn forever. Make sense? Okay, it's 11:30, want me to stop? This slide. He wants me to talk about forensic accounting really badly. Okay. Forensic accounting means of or pertaining to the law. So a forensic accountant is hired to help explain to a jury the financial aspects of dispute that they couldn't figure out on their own, essentially. So forensic means of or pertaining to the law. It does not mean that a forensic accountant does dead people's taxes. I got that a lot. Really? No. Like that's an accountant who just does an estate tax return, a 990. Right? Of or pertaining to a law. It doesn't always have to be matters of dispute. I think I'm a forensic accountant every day when I have these types of discussions. Because we just talked about tax law. Right? So those fall into a couple of different categories. I specialized in fraud investigations, business valuations, specifically, and business interruption claims. Fraud investigations would be coming into an organization and figuring out who did what, how much they took, and can it happen again, and how do we fix it. That make sense? Business valuation is what is this asset worth? Every business owner thinks that their business is worth a lot more than it is. And usually my experience is that the reason why they think their business is worth 20 times EBITDA when businesses usually trade at 2 times EBITDA in their industry is simply because they have an emotional attachment to a number on their balance sheet, because that number at 4 or 5% at retirement is going to create a lifestyle that they want. So they can't take 2 times. If they want 20 times, then it's our role as advisors, not necessarily as the valuation specialist, to help coach them on how to build the business value. Valuations fall into a couple different areas of dispute. It falls into what happens in the event of intellectual property damages. It falls into the divorce context. Husband and wife, married, wife owns a successful business, they get divorced. How do you value that asset for equitable distribution purposes? Okay. Also, I've been called on in the context of divorce to say, I know we live this great life. Where's all the money? He says that he's poor. He says he has nothing. She says she has nothing. Can you find it? Caution your clients that if their spouse owns a cash-based business and they were joint taxpayers, married filing jointly, they signed a tax return under what? Oath. And so if that tax return was misstated, they could go to jail. It is tax evasion. So be careful if you're the professional on a forensic accounting assignment in the context of divorce, when husband or wife is saying the business did so much more than that. You know, it's a pizza shop. We telling you, she was bringing in $400,000 or $500,000 a year, but the books say that the business only generates $100,000. Because if you bring that into court and testify, that's when we have good conversations with counsel and say, listen, we might want to settle this. That's not going to go well for right? We have an obligation at that point. I remember doing a case in a divorce context. He was a restaurant owner, and he said that he only had one employee for a 4,000 square foot restaurant. One employee on the books. How? Yeah, you go in and there's servers. There's people, bussing tables. There's people in the kitchen. I mean, we don't understand how and why, but that can't be based in reality. They're underreporting income. If they're underreporting income, they're underreporting their income taxes. And what else in the state of New Jersey?
Sales tax.
Sales tax. So be really careful in getting involved from a divorce context to not advising people of what it means to have signed that tax return. And if you have clients that are consistently spouses coming in you only talk to the spouse when you're doing tax prep work. The other spouse isn't there and they say, she doesn't want to know, he doesn't want to know, he's not involved. It's relevant to at some point in time, make sure both people come in. Because ignorance doesn't go well in court. A business interruption claim, there's a deli by me called Short Hills Deli. It burned down on a Friday afternoon. I remember it like it was yesterday because people used to tease me and say it was my kitchen. And I'm not domestic. So I was getting phone calls all weekend when it burned down, like somebody died in my family. Where are you going to eat? I promise you there's other restaurants in Cherry Hill. I'll be okay. I can get eggs someplace else. So, but when they were out of operations for 9.5 months, they lost money. Do you think their landlord cared? Like, do you think they still had to pay their lease? And if they didn't have a business to come back to. So it would be my job to come into the deli and figure out how much money had that business been producing prior to being out of business on a daily basis. And they were out of business for 9.5 months. Tally up the number of days they would have been open and the seasonality issues, and that's how much loss they had by that business burning down because an employee threw a cigarette in the garbage. And it's our job to draft a report that they could utilize to submit to their insurance company to be reimbursed. That make sense? Good. an intellectual property damages case, my friend owns Scrub Daddy. Ever heard of the little yellow smiley face Shark Tank item? So if I developed a pink Scrub Mommy and used all the same technology, and I put it out into the marketplace and started to sell, you think Aaron might sue me, sue my organization for patent infringement? How would he be able to determine how much to sue me for? You get to make it up. Like, a lot of people think that that's what we get to do as a legal system. Yeah.
Just revenue you made from selling the, I don't know, use.
He gets to sue me for the revenue I made?
Yeah.
Okay.
For his loss.
So is his loss the revenue I made, or was his loss the decline in his widgets being sold?
Yeah, because his sales is getting declined, so basically he can sue you for that. For
For the
his
delta.
loss, yes.
Right? So we would come in, I mean, you're on the right track. We would come into the organization and figure out what is the margin, what's the profit on every Scrub Daddy that he makes. I don't know the answer to it. And if he was normally selling 50,000 Scrub Daddies every day, and now he's selling 45,000 Scrub Daddies every day, because my people like a pink Scrub Mommy instead of a yellow Scrub Daddy, he's going to sue me for those 5,000 widgets. Does that make sense?
What if he doesn't cut down on production and stuff, so for,
He can, because I've infringed upon his patent, and I've devalued the patent
You could
and his
also,
goodwill.
you also said using the exact same technology, whether you're doing a cheap knockoff, and then people think, oh, now this is actually, just because yours wasn't the same quality, this isn't, the comparable is not the same quality,
Good.
so now you diminish the actual value.
Good.
You haven't just taken the penny out of his pocket, you've diminished the value of his product.
Great. So I've diminished his goodwill, which is an economic damage, harder to quantify,
Fine.
because it's going to be based off of future cash flow. But absolutely, that's an economic concept I would sue for.
So how successful, like, those lawsuits, you know, in court? Like, where?
I find that they typically settle out of court, but successful. Especially where there's a patent involved. That's why on Shark Tank they always want to know if there's a patent. Yep. Anything else? I'm being told it's not time. I could come in and just talk about forensic accounting. Any questions for me?
Simple question. PFS stands for?
Personal financial specialist. The designation from the AICPA, there's a test and amount of experience that you have to have in order to have a designation, and it's the AICPA's version, I guess, like that word, it's the AICPA designation that would compete with the CFP.
Certified Financial Planner.
Correct. That certified financial planner is one who subscribes to a financial planning process. And the CFP company, that is a for-profit company, has done an excellent job of marketing to let the public have a perception that the CFP is the designation, the gold standard. So
see
the
that.
AICPA probably should do a better job of marketing. They're working on it. That's what it is. Pro and con of each.
Which one, yeah, if you had to choose one, obviously you did. Which one should
I chose what I chose, and I will continue to never hold a CFP designation. The why behind that is that I don't subscribe to the needs and goals-based planning process of dollar cost averaging into the mutual fund market and planning for a lump sum at a withdrawal rate in the future and hoarding assets. They plan for time input times interest rate equals lump sum. If I take a little bit off the top each year, just the interest each year, I can leave the nest egg for the next generation. It eliminates a large portion of consideration and economics that goes into how money and finance really work. So it doesn't resonate for me to get that designation because it's not the way in which I plan with my clients. So it's going to be a matter of preference, you know, and what you understand and have had exposure to in the marketplace. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
I think the PFS designation is And what the AICPA is working towards is more holistic life planning.
And that's what I thought the CFP was. I thought that was the idea, because they do market it really well. And it's all over the place. I had never seen this one.
It's only my opinion. What I will say is that the industry, the Senate Finance Committee is evaluating different options on how to incentivize the American public to not just save more for retirement, but to have guaranteed retirement income to deal with longevity. And they're also working on how to create more access to retirement accounts early. Interesting balancing act. What the industry is talking about now in terms of our industry, what I'm hearing at the AICPA is taxes are going to go up in the future, that people are going to live longer, and that we need to start to be more creative about how to give people individual pensions. Bring guaranteed income back in, not necessarily through the workforce. How do we do that? And it can't just simply be by hoarding assets, because the sequence of returns in retirement can kill a family financially.
Yeah, sure.
We can talk about it more offline. I'm going to turn the floor back over to the man who deserves the floor.
And did you bring some name cards with you so that you
I
can share with
Did. I don't know if I brought the full 20. I was out of the
Just few.
office all week in training, but I do. I put it in the back? Perfect. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for coming
You're
in.
welcome. Thank you. It was a great discussion. Thank you very much. I
Thank
enjoyed
you.
it. Are you diving right in, or are they getting a half a second break?
Well, I think that's the slot, so.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I lose your entire agenda? Thank you. Thank you.
Did you know how to?
I do. I just wanted, if anybody had any other questions for me, if they wanted me to, if you wanted me to stick around in the hallway.
Yeah, you can have this copy.
So you're retiring?
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. I gotta go to the
Because
farm.
we calculate it's gonna be much
Thank you.
cheaper for us to refinance.
If anyone has any questions, I'll step out into the hallway for a couple minutes and then I'm heading
No,
out.
my
And
husband.
you are hiring too, huh?
What is
I
that?
I do
hire.
title.
Okay, good.
Oh, yes, you do.
Okay,
But,
you need a title policy.
thank you.
And this way I can.
It's not
sit
like
with
I don't
them.
have, it's not like I don't have any other information the way how to reach you, but.
And then I can sit down with Dennis and we can talk.
So, because we calculate that our mortgage.
Thank you.
Oh, sure, yeah, no.
So, like, just.
Are you going into an arm, to your arm, or, but an adjustable rate?
See,
Yeah, it's gonna be, I don't know. Because
I will do this. Next Saturday, I'll spend first 30 minutes on Stanford law. This is the law you need to know.
Sorry, everybody.
Thank you. Well, the Amy has a name card here, so if you have any questions, please email. Previous slide on this basic statistics, but I will go through quickly. But we need to find out why financial statement 30% of the time, any given number, chance is that that number will start with digit number 1, 30% of the time. If you pick number 4, that's a 9%, 17, 12, and here, if you pick any source document, the chance is that any particular number starts with a digit number 9 is less than 5%. Why? I mean, do they deserve same 10% here? Random? No, it's not. That's the Benford law, and this has been used to detect financial fraud. SEC, by the way, has a forensic department. They hire forensic accountants to crack down on the financial statement fraud. Wall Street is covering this topic extensively. So I attached one Wall Street Journal article, but we need to understand why this is the case. and how financial statement fraud can be detected with Benford law. I wish I can say this was developed by accountants. No, physics. Find out there. 60, 70 years ago. So obviously we don't have time today, but that was the fun, interesting. Right?
But I wanted to hear the why.
Oh yeah, okay.
Come back next Saturday for a half hour.
I have gathered
I
five.
took statistics. My understanding was that all of them
Yeah,
have an
and-
equal chance.
Yeah, the
This
probability
isn't
of.
just for financial statements.
Hmm?
I don't know if you made that clear. This isn't just for financial statements. This is
Every number.
yeah.
Every random digit number, not only financial source document, probability of seeing any one single digit, 1 through 9, any digit, is log. This is a Frank Benford finder. Log of 1 plus 1 over e. In other words, if probability of finding out digit number 1 in pi of numbers is log 10, 1 plus 1 over 1, which is what? 2? Log 2. Log 2. Find out what is the log 2 on the your factor. Log 2. That number.
But wouldn't that be true about every number 1 through 9?
No,
Not just
no,
number
see,
number 1?
okay, this is number 1. What is the chance of finding out number 2? 1 plus 1 over 2, 1 half. So this probably finding out number 2 digit is 1.5 because 1 plus 1 over 2. Finding out log 1.5.
Just type in log.
This
two.
one? Yeah, exactly. Exactly. This is strange.
Raise it up 11?
So I would just pick this one. So this is the what I can give you.
Yeah.
I will have talk. At least you get something.
This is
out of it.
interesting. I got a lot out of it. I had a good discussion.
For
Okay.
auditors,
See,
we'll
here,
use this as a journal
here.
entry.
See, this is the Benford law, Benford frequency, 30%, 70%, Benford law. Look at Enron 2000 financial statement.
So what you're saying is if you're going to steal, make sure that it starts and ends with $1.
But they have enough number of observations. In other words, you can't work for few observations.
Right.
If you keep working on pile of cube, that's why financial statement is a good place to use this because they have tens of, instead of Benford law, find out, see here.
Nobody steals just once.
Well,
Well, what you would do
Someone
is
does.
you would take
Steal
But
one
then-
that starts with
but then
4
it's
and you
a
make it
lot.
6 or an 8.
The
or you
question
take
is,
Yeah.
something
why
that's
did
8
that
or 9
person
and you make it
steal
1.
to
You just
start it?
bump up all the numbers.
that's why artificial number doesn't follow Benford law, and this has been used in many different areas. And I think
Right.
the rule of statistics says you must have more than 40 observations to have a decent prediction of this. But for your purpose, small practice, I would say you need to have much more than 40 observations. This is the Benford find out. See this? And log book 1, 2, 3, 4, 9. After years of using log one book is was worn out because he has been using so much. Log 9, he's not using it, brand new. So after years of using, he finds out, oh, I've been using 1, 2, 3 more than a 6, 7, 8, 9. So he finds out.
So you're saying that with Enron, they were testing financial transactions and they didn't have the same size transactions
In other
based
words,
off of the
Mhm.
probability of how many times they would see that number?
and financial statement numbers and
interesting.
source documents, they put into this test and they find out if this is the normal transaction, they must, without a fraud, they must follow Benford distribution. But what they found was this. They start with
I just
what?
thought that was a stock market.
For journal entry testing,
That what people-
what we'll sometimes do is we'll take the GL dump and then we'll run a Benford's on it and then we'll see what,
Exactly. It's software.
Because it should follow that, and since a GL will have maybe thousands of transactions, it's usually pretty close. And then if it's off, then you got
It is applicable now using this. So there is software, easy software to use.
So I could say I was not using that in forensic accounting then. We were doing it more manually from that perspective and looking at last year patterns. I mean, we were just but more manual from that perspective. Does it make sense? And thinking about it, it's great that there's technology that will help you to design it.
So we'll go
Take your
over
time.
this. If we'll go over this, this is for next week. Just review PowerPoint slide. You know the material, some of the material. I will just we'll go over Sabin Asli. I will do some research.
Our papers,
problem.
based on what?
You'll see a lot of review, like,
That's the next week.
if they,
Everything's under
It was under assignment one on Sakai.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sabin Asli, my
but yeah, then
Great.
So that's for another.
you'll see a bunch of fives. What we'll
No, I didn't
have
log
to
up.
do
I
then
didn't
is
end up
find out whether or not it's
No,
It was a good discussion.
It might be like, there's 200 different
Where was this published?
200 entries at 5.
Where were you published?
So you'll see a lot of bars. And then you'll have factors out. Still don't make sense.
Then with the manuscript. So this is the first stop. So I'm using my article.
Thank you very much. Take care.
You used,
Thank you very much. I really enjoyed talking with you. Okay? I'd love to learn.
our, pro system is our, right.